Hi, I'm Gavin,
I'm Ryan.
and welcome back to the Sound Project. So something's different today.
Unfortunately.
I'm sitting on the right side of the table, well, left to the camera. But
Yep.
why do you think that is?
Don't know. Not for anything that I had any doing or saying.
So Ryan, he's not thrilled about this, but lately he's been interviewing, like he interviewed myself. He also interviewed Oscar. He interviewed Luke. He's also going to interview other people on our staff.
Yep.
But today we're going to interview Ryan. And he's not thrilled about it.
No.
But everybody should be excited about this because Ryan's a great guy, important part of our team. And I think people are going to like to know a little bit more about you. There's been a little bit of like pieces throughout episodes where people are like, oh, Ryan's from Kokomo. Oh, Ryan's, but like we call it the Ryan lore internally. But today we're just going to straight up ask questions.
Yep.
And you're going to have fun answering them.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot Luke was adding the little bits of Ryan lore throughout the early episodes. Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to start by maybe just give a little bit of a background about, where you grew up, how you got into music, and kind of start from there.
Cool. So I lived in Kokomo, Indiana, which is about an hour north of Indy. My entire family is from Buffalo, New York, though, so I claim that also. And then as far as getting into music, so my parents started me out in lessons like early on, so played trumpet, piano, and then my brother and my uncle always played guitar. So I grew up just always hearing them playing guitar. And so that was like, all right, yeah, like I want to do that. So my aunt and uncle had this tradition that when they don't have kids of their own, but when a niece or nephew turned 12, they got to go spend a month of the summer with them. So like everyone else. So, and especially the fact that I lived in Indiana, I got to go spend the month in New York, in Buffalo with them. And so my younger brother and I, so my older brother is the one that played guitar originally. And then my younger brother and I were very, very close. So even though he wasn't 12 yet, we both went at the same time. So then we stopped at I think it was at like a Target or something. And my uncle came walking out with 2 electric guitars. And so that was like, so he bought us our first guitars.
Wow.
So that was when I was 12. And then,
By the way, my uncle gave me my first guitar as well.
No way.
We have that in common.
That's
Yes.
super cool.
Yeah.
So I still have mine. So it's like it's a Vinci is the brand. It's like an off brand of Washburn.
Okay.
And it's nothing crazy, but it actually like plays really well. Like I love that guitar.
Nice.
So still have that guitar. My mom put me in lessons for a little bit. That wasn't totally my thing. Like, I mean, we would hear like songs here and there. But I did a lot of like self-taught stuff as well. So did that and then continued guitar. Like, so I ended up majoring in guitar performance, in college along with a media production degree. So I double majored for that. And I still play guitar. I'm in a band with you.
That is true.
Yeah. So new guitarist to Rivet Shack. I've played in like different studios as well, like as a session player. So guitar's been my primary. I play piano as well, but that one is more of like that's a for me thing opposed to
That's
like
something
for
I
other
didn't
people.
even know. I didn't know that you played piano.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
okay.
I do play piano. And that was another, like I took lessons, in college as well, like for classical piano. But that's one again, like I don't play out very often. Like one band that I played with in Fort Wayne for a while. I played keys for them and that was like the first time I ever played keys out.
Wow.
But yeah, so play, and then trumpet, I still have like my trumpet, but I don't play it very often.
Yeah.
And then also like with the audio recording degree in college, I started recording, I want to say in like middle school is when I first started. So it was like running sound in my church, and doing things like that. And then I also worked at a local music store. So we would do like small recordings there, running live sound, things like that. So that just carried through. So yeah, in college, did a lot of sessions, still run live sound here and there. So
Yeah. That's very cool. So you went to high school with Oscar,
Yes.
who's
Yep.
also on staff here, and so that's kind of a small world. It's just like being able to like much later on in life, like end up working with him.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of how you found out about us originally, right?
Yeah, I would definitely contribute my being here to Oscar because it was when I was a sales engineer at Sweetwater. And so part of that training program it's like a 3-month training program, and part of it is you teaching an acoustics class.
Yeah.
And so Oscar and I have been in touch, since high school. Like we were friends in high school. We kept in touch through college and all of that. So he knew I was working at Sweetwater. And he had texted me the day that you were going there, and he was like, "Hey, like Gavin's going in, like make sure you introduce yourself." So I did, and then we kind of became friends through that. So anytime that you'd come to Sweetwater, we would go out bowling or go to dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
And then once my wife and I moved here, then that's when like the job kind of became a thing. So,
That was. I remember sitting in the conference room with Oscar, and our company has grown a lot in a short amount of time, and Oscar and I handled pretty much all of the new inquiries and discovery calls with people, and doing proposals and sending them out, and it just got to be to the point where it's like we were still handling it, but we weren't like taking care of it,
right?
Like treating it with the with how much focus you need to have on something like that.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in the conference room, kind of having a sales meeting about like, okay, what proposals are going out? Like, have we gotten information back to these people? Have you set up discovery calls? And a big thing with our company is just communication. Like we want to get back to people in a good amount, in a timely fashion. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, man, it's starting to get to the point where we can't handle this. And we were trying to identify like, okay, well, what type of job description would it be for someone to do this? Sure. And we didn't get very far in the job description side of things, but we did. Your name came up immediately. Like for both of us were just like, wow, like Ryan lives here now, and I think he'd be great at this. And I just reached out and see if you were interested. So
and a couple breakfast meetings and coffee after, and here we are.
Here you
almost
are. Yeah,
2 years later. Which is awesome.
It's wild. It's I remember with you coming on board, it's like we've never had your title's business development manager. Mm-hmm. We've never really before you came on, we did very little outreach. Like we didn't do a whole lot of we were just reacting to what came in. But a big part of your job is that outreach piece, which I think you enjoy.
Yeah, I love it. And it's been a lot of fun. And it's kind of cool how all of my previous jobs in the industry, so from like working at Sweetwater to working for a repping firm, to like, in studios and tours and things, like it all kind of comes together here because of all the contacts I had from that. Like now I'm able to help them on the acoustical side. Yeah. It's cool. And it's fun to be back in the audio industry too, just because like once COVID hit, I kind of made a shift into the IT world. And so that's when my wife and I first moved to Carmel. Like I was in IT, so it's been nice to like be back in the MI field as well. Like, cause music is like the original passion and everything.
Yeah. And a lot of, I guess what's a typical day? If there is a typical day for you, what is that like around here?
Man, it varies a lot. I guess, I cover it more so on responsibilities than a typical day.
Yeah.
But it always starts out with emails, just in like replying to any potential sales. And a lot of that is, either like the initial outreach to get a meeting scheduled to talk about what we do and how we might fit into someone's project, to like, maybe we've already had that initial meeting. So now it's like, all right, like, where are you at in the process? Like, what can I do to maybe better fit into your budget? Or like, what can I do to better cater to your project? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is that. And then there's the actual like new outreach thing, to where it's like, all right, like, especially with trade shows coming up, it's reaching out to manufacturers and seeing like, hey, like, I see you're on the list. Like, will you have time for us to meet about how we could start working together? Yeah. And so a lot of it is just that relationship building, whether it be with, architect firms or manufacturers or record labels or universities, like just finding those new niches that we can fit into, but still add value to. So that's a big part. And now that Cam's here, he handles a lot of the social media stuff. But before I was also doing all of the social media and everything. So Cam's been a huge help, like relieving some of that. And so, yeah, but I'll still like oversee everything that we're doing on the social media and marketing side. A lot of it is like kind of Cam's brain at this point to where he's coming up with a lot of the ideas on his own. So I've kind of transitioned out of that. But it's more so like just the overarching, like, yeah, that's our voice. And, you know, that fits the Haverstick Designs motto kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do a lot of that, and then all the proposals that we send out, you know, are usually I'm the one making them and doing that, and then just looking for new opportunities, like what places, you know, could use our help that we haven't worked with and things like that, and then just also managing and like keeping up with all of the relationships that we've already built.
Yeah.
So.
And anchoring this podcast.
Yeah.
This was your idea, you know, to do this podcast, and it's been fun to do this with you over the last year or so.
Yeah.
Like, not quite a year, but
I can't
coming up
believe, I mean, I think by the end of the year, we would have released 41 episodes, I think.
Wow.
Since we didn't start at the very beginning of the year, but yeah, it's just crazy that it's like, wow, like we have people watching us.
Right.
Like, but yeah.
What would you say as far as, like, what do you enjoy the most as far as your responsibilities or working here in general? Like, what is your, what's the thing that when you wake up in the morning, like, I can't wait to do that?
So there's a couple of things. One, I love our team. I think I've probably said it on other podcasts, but like our team is like a family. And like, I really kind of take that to heart. Especially like, as you all know, like as we're focusing on like hitting our yearly goals and things, like the team is really like my driving force behind that. The other thing is like just meeting new people. Like, I get to talk to a lot of really cool people. And I'm not just like talking about the people that are like, you know, full-time musicians, but just like some people that are just doing this for fun, like are some of the coolest people I've ever talked to. So love meeting new people. And then also like the people that I've already met, but am still working with, like just some of the professional relationships that I get to work with them frequently. Like I love the relationships that we're, you know, building. And then lastly is just like, I love the fact that like we can see the progress on, you know, all the outreach that we're doing, all the social media, and like we can directly tie that to the business growing is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So it's, so I enjoy like making it grow and, you know, watching it just get bigger.
Yeah. Well, and I was curious too, like besides the 3-hour acoustics course at Sweetwater that you took that I gave, how much acoustical training did you have before you came here?
Not much. So I did have an acoustics class in college, and that was okay. I had a GA instead of like a faculty member teaching it, and so it was. Some days was great, some days weren't. It's fine. But that was like the only formal training in acoustics that I had. Like, so, which is also crazy to think about because I like now I would say like I have a decent knowledge of it. And so, and it's all just from like being around you guys, like, and hearing you guys talk about it and then me being able to talk about it in my calls. But other than that though, I had no like.
I think like over the last year and a half or so, you've just grown so much on that side of things, and because you're on all these discovery calls with people, and questions come up, and after every call that those questions come up, you either come to me and say like, how do I answer this? Because I didn't know on the spot, so I told them I'd check with you first, but you know. Now it's less and less frequent that you have to ask any questions, which is kind of cool.
So hopefully I'm giving the right information. But no, I mean, you're right though. Like just between like hearing you talk about it more around the office, hearing like all of the rest of the team talk about like, oh, maybe I'm trying to accomplish this. So this is the material I'm using, you know, it's what's the osmosis, right? Where it's just like, just being around it, you're naturally going to catch on. And so, and then by me talking to other people about it and kind of having to teach them about it, just like reinforces it all that much more. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
One feedback I constantly get from people, which I love, is when they talk to you on the phone, they're just like, man, Ryan's great. You know, like and it's important for me too, to hire people that are good people. It's like I always, we have our core values, and this podcast was named after that, the S.O.U.N.D project.
Yeah.
And you exemplify all of those things. But I constantly get feedback from people just saying like, wow, Ryan was so cool to talk to, and then you're cool to talk to. It's something where it's really, really nice that it's a consistent experience for people.
That's super cool. And I mean, and like I said, like it's so easy to talk about what we're doing, and then the fact that everyone that we're talking to is super awesome too. Like, I mean, Ryan Monet is like a current project that we have going right now, and it's like Ryan and I talk like on the side now. It's just one of those things, like we just hit it off like right away. And so no, I mean, I'm glad that people have that impression. But no, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of cool to hear that, but it's just like, I'm just being myself. Like
that's all it takes. Because I think people see through it if you're being disingenuous and you're not being yourself because you're trying to make a sale happen.
For sure. Yeah.
People can tell that right away. And that's why we're not pushy when it comes to the sales side of things. It's like, if we're the right fit, that's awesome. Let's do this. If we're not, let's see if we can figure out what is the right fit for you somewhere else, or if we can, change our services up a little bit. But
for sure,
no one likes to feel pressure. I always say that, building a studio, there's stress involved with it, and it's, always takes longer maybe than you would hope it would.
Sure.
However, it still should be fun.
Yeah,
like
100%.
And I think that people get that when they talk to you at first.
That's one of those things that, like, with a studio build, it's either your career and you're probably loving it because you get to do what you love, or it's someone that, they've waited a long time to be able to like build, like maybe building a studio has been their lifelong dream and now they finally get to do it. So it's just like, that should be enjoyable. Like, sure, there's going to be some stress moments and things like that, and it can be expensive. But ultimately, like, it should be a really cool experience that, even like with our process, like with the renderings and like even with the floor layout, like you should enjoy that. Like it's a big deal. It's a lot of fun.
For a lot of people, it's a lifelong dream. It's like,
exactly.
and the fact that we get to make that happen in some way, it's a fun job.
It is. So,
so switching from work mode to, let's talk more personally about you. Because I know you want to do that. Although you're loosening up now. At the first part of the episode, it seemed like you didn't want to do this. And now I think you want to go probably at least another 45 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know about that. 18 minutes. Yeah, we'll see.
But with you personally, like, tell me a little bit about like what you like to do outside of work and all that.
So as I mentioned earlier, like I'm married. So my wife Lexi and I actually grew up together. So we've known each other pretty much our whole lives. And then we've been married for 4 years now, which is super cool. And she's a nurse. So she does that. And then we just recently got a puppy. So we have a puppy corgi. Her name is Cece.
Very cute.
She is in puppy school. She's about 4 months old. But and then as I mentioned too, like I have two brothers. I'm the middle child, so I have an older brother and a younger brother. Both of them are involved in music as well. My older brother was actually in a touring band for a while. He was signed to a label and everything. And then my younger brotber is in graphic design, so he does a lot of good work. He's actually the one that designed our podcast logo for the S.O.U.N.D project. So, I'm really close with my family. My parents still live in Kokomo, so I see them frequently. My in-laws also live in Kokomo. So Lexi's parents, funny enough, actually live about 1.5 miles down the road from my parents.
Oh, wow.
But naturally, we waited till we're an hour apart to start dating. And I decided,
that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Another similarity, because
that's right. Because
I started dating Erica like a month or so before I left for college.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I decided that an hour wasn't long enough, so I moved to Fort Wayne, which was 1.5 hours away.
Just wanted to test it. And it turned out fine.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
But and then as far as like what I like doing on the side, I still play guitar a lot. I play piano quite a bit as well. I still like try to record as much as I can. As you know, I'm like in the process of trying to find a place for an actual studio, which I'm very excited about.
What is the name of the studio?
So the name of the studio is Panda Sound House. Your business partner told me that I should start describing it as, I say it's panda because that's what my spirit animal is. But the true story is, so my mom used to make our Halloween costumes when we were kids. So I was very fortunate for that. But because of that, our Halloween costumes were also very elaborate. So my mother made me a panda outfit.
Is it possible to get a photo of this to include in the podcast?
I will have to add, I'm sure my mom has a picture somewhere. I will see if I can find it. Yeah, we'll pull the Steve Alford for you. But yeah, so I think it was like 2 years when I was like very, very young. I was a panda for Halloween.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things that so I went to like a really small middle school. And so we had like a graduation when we graduated 8th grade. And all of our parents made this PowerPoint that had, or the slideshow or whatever, that had photos of when we were growing up and all that. Well, my parents put the panda picture in there. And then come high school, a bunch of my friends from the middle school also went to the same high school I did. So I walked in first day, freshman year, with the panda picture posted all over my locker. So it was one of those things. I used to be embarrassed about it, and now I just embrace it to the point that I'm naming a studio after
That's
it.
great. No, it's awesome. I remember first day when you came into the office, you had a few panda trinkets that were, and I was like, what's the deal with the panda? So
I do. Yep. I have like a panda with like a little stereo like on his shoulder, and then I have a big panda mug. Yeah. I have lots of panda things.
All right. Well, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm leaning into it now.
Yeah. So let's talk about that if you're okay with it. The Panda Sound House. What are your dreams for that?
Yeah. So the big thing is I just want to get back into mixing. That was like something I really love doing. And I found for a while I was working in the industry that it actually like kind of pulled me away from wanting to do more music on the side just because it was my job. Where this is like a good balance where it's like, I'm not talking gear all day or anything like that. And so I talked to my wife about it. And it was one of those things that like I had like a smaller studio when I was in Fort Wayne as well. And so once we moved, I just never did anything about it. So we talked about it and we're like, all right, like, let's do this. So we actually opened the LLC together, which is super cool. It's just one of those things that I wanted to be able to do with my wife. And so I'm in the process of, finding a place and talking with a couple of manufacturers for, some sponsorship type things. And, we'll see where it goes.
And for everyone out there, like, don't get concerned. Ryan's still going to work here.
Yes.
He's not like leaving us to start the studio. That's going to be stuff that he does on the side.
Yes. It is a supplemental thing, 100%.
Yeah.
HD will hopefully be the designing acquisitions in it, but it's completely on the side. And there's not really like Atmos rooms around here, so I'm kind of hoping to hit the list on, being one of the first Atmos rooms in the area. And so, so honestly though, I'm just kind of excited for me, honestly, like completely selfishly, like just being able to be back in it.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like, all right, whatever comes of it comes from it. Like, and we'll see what happens. So
nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Rivet Shack. And how you joined our band.
Yeah.
We recently were in the need for a new guitarist.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, Ryan's a great guitarist. I'll ask him. And you said yes, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But we had our first gig a little while ago, maybe a month or so ago. And,
so much fun. Loved it.
Went great, you know. And I want to play more next year.
Yes.
So I hope you're up for that.
Yeah.
We've kind of been dormant for a little bit, playing like 2 or 3 times a year. But every time that we do play, I'm like, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, why am I not doing more of that?
Yeah.
So that's the goal. And I also have we've talked about this, where I have a personal goal of at least writing enough songs for an EP that we can go up to Traverse City area and record it at S.O.U.N.D Studio with Chip Freeman.
Yep.
Like that's the goal. I don't know if the recording will happen this year, but all the songs need to be written this year.
Yeah, so. I'm super excited for that. And honestly, like playing with Rivet Shack was so much fun. And it was, again, it just goes back to like one of the small world things where it's like, okay, our drummer Neil, like I knew him because I went to high school with his daughter, and then from working in the industry, I knew him. And then the old guitarist who I ended up replacing, like
Paul Miller,
we're both from Kokomo, so it's just.
And you had the same guitar teacher, I think.
We did, yep. So we both went to Ball State at different times, but so had the same guitar professor and everything. So small world, but love playing in Rivet Shack. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. It's one of those where it's like, all right, like, hey, here are the songs. So I think I ended up bumping up because Rivet Shack was actually in my like top played or my year wrap up for 23 because I listened to it so much to like figure out how to play the parts.
Right.
But no, it's so much fun. It was cool to be on stage again. It's been a long time. So that was fun.
2024, we'll do more of that.
Yeah, have to.
All right. So when you interviewed me and Oscar and Luke, you had questions from your wife Lexi that you is like quick rapid fire questions, and I remember what they are, so I'm going to ask you and turn the tables on you. First question is Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Easy. All right, next next question is favorite Mario Kart character.
So I flip back and forth between Yoshi and Shy Guy. I'm usually Yoshi though.
Yeah, and you can tell a lot about people with these questions, by the way. He answered the first one correctly. Second one, I do Yoshi as well. So we're on the same wavelength.
Luke's the only one so far that's answered Pepsi. I don't know what. We might have to fire him, honestly.
I don't know if that's the greatest idea because he might like mess with the video or something, make us look strange, light us incorrectly.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't do that. So it's fine if he drinks Pepsi. This wasn't her question, but favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, so we've talked about that one before. Where so growing up, it was like I would usually gravitate towards like Leonardo, and then now like as an adult, I'm between Michelangelo and Donatello.
Yeah, so why don't you just name all of them? Say Raphael as well.
Raphael's like really, but no, like just as a person, like I feel like I like can relate to because like I feel like I'm very logical, like in my thought process. Yeah. So it's like, all right, that's very Donatello.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like very outgoing with things. So like that's more Michelangelo. So So I relate to both of them.
Donatello's my guy because he's an engineer.
Right.
And I like him.
Totally
for that
makes
reason.
sense. Yeah.
But all right, how about a guilty pleasure of yours?
Oh yeah.
Like film or TV or music or.
I remember because Lexi was, what was it? Because when we talked about that for you, she was like, yours is this. And it wasn't even something I was embarrassed about. What was it? I can't remember. I really like rom-coms. So like The Proposal like is one of my favorite movies.
I like that.
But again, like, I mean, I like what I like no shame.
Yeah, that totally works.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're coming up. We're filming this in late 2023 and coming up on our new year. Like what things personally or professionally like are you looking forward to in the new year?
Yeah, the continued growth, honestly. I won't like talk numbers, but like I have a pretty big number like in my head for our growth for next year sales wise. And then there's just some outreach goals that I have as far as like different groups I want to reach out to that we haven't to in the past. And then the fact that we're like moving into a new office, I'm really, really excited about that, honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
And then also the fact that we're bringing on George Waller. So he's starting in June.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he will be involved a little bit like in the sales process, it'll free me up to do like more of the outreach stuff. So I'm really excited about just being able to do more of that.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Any big plans personally, just outside of work for the new year?
Not really.
You have a vacation.
Yeah. My wife and I we're going down to Florida actually for a concert is the whole reason for going down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What concert?
We're going to see Ripe, in February in Jupiter, Florida. Oh, cool. Which ironically my grandmother happens to have a place down there. Okay. So, and it's right when she's going to be down there. So we're going to go down and see my grandmother, but then Ripe is playing at a seafood festival.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're gonna get really good food, and we're gonna go see one of our favorite bands.
Isn't the cover of their album that was your favorite album of the year has like a wave?
Yes.
Maybe like they're pigeonholing themselves into only aquatic.
Yeah,
themed.
right. Which is funny because they're all like Berkeley people, so they're from Boston. Like, but yeah, they did make my favorite album of the year though, which is super cool.
That is.
Yeah, so I'm excited. It'll be like my third or fourth time seeing them. So yeah, they're one of my favorite bands. So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't so painful, right?
No,
like it was fine.
It was
it's
fairly
just us
painless.
talking.
Yeah,
it's totally fine.
You're right. Just with a bunch of cameras and a microphone in front of me.
That's it. That is it. But yeah, I really appreciate you being here, not on the podcast, but just at our company.
Me too.
I think that you, you do everything at the highest level, and I'm so glad that you said yes, even when I didn't have a job description written for you. So
we create it as we go. It's all right.
Sounds good. So that's been another episode of the Sound Project. Thanks for being a part of it. If you could comment below what your favorite Mario Kart character is, I'd really like to know that, because hopefully people, they agree with me and Ryan. Yoshi is probably the best, but have your own opinions, comment it below, and we'll see you next week.